what to do, don't know what to say. Got so many questions to ask. From pillar to post, from coast to coast. Confusion all across the land. A hidden word is what I'd like to say. But tell me, would you listen, my friend? I'm so glad I know about the blessed beauty. So glad I know about the blessed beauty. I just I want to praise His name. Oh, Baha'u'llah, 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 Baha'u'llah. Oh, Baha'u'llah. Blessed beauty. Good morning, everyone. Hello, everyone. Wait a minute. I didn't hit the go live thing on Facebook. I didn't hit the button. I brought it up, but I didn't. Hello, everyone in Zoom land. How you doing there? Jeremiah's coming over to turn on the Facebook thing. Hope everyone's doing well. Good morning. Good morning. We've got Suzanne here. Good morning, Suzanne. How you doing? And Mike's out here in the room. How you doing, Mike? That's good. Kristen is out there somewhere, and Kristen, my daughter, decided she'd join us today. And we got Eric up here with me today. How you doing, Eric?
Doing pretty good.
You doing good? Great, great, great. And Jeremiah's over there. How you doing, Jeremiah? You doing good? You know, I'm going to take just a second, and I'm going to kind of reposition the Facebook camera because, Mike, you look like you're just a background singer there. You kind of look like you move it back some. Okay. And you just told me you don't sing, so we don't want you looking like we don't want people thinking you're going to chime in if you don't sing. Okay, that's a little. I think that's a little bit better. Okay, and in our Zoom, anyone want to say hi? Anyone in Zoom want to say hello to us? I don't know who we've got in Zoom yet.
Hello, good morning from Alabama.
Did Terry say hello? I see Terry lit up there.
Good morning.
Oh, and you okay? It's coming through the computer speaker. That's why. Okay, I'm not hearing it. But I hope everyone's doing well this morning. I'm going to have
Thank
to
you.
change
You too.
the thing to a different speaker on the audio setting up there. Yeah. So we'll just wait a second while our tech guy is doing that. I think if you put it on, I don't know, you know.
Good thing he can read from left to right, sideways.
Someone say something. Yuda, I see your name up on screen.
Something.
Okay, it's still coming
Good
through.
morning.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It is. Okay. Well, anyway, we hope everyone is doing well. And we're going to go ahead and start with a prayer real quick. I got a prayer book here. I'll just read. This is one of my favorite prayers. I always wonder if that's okay. Is it okay to have favorite prayers? Here's a prayer for spiritual growth. Oh, my Lord, make thy beauty to be my food, and thy presence my drink, and thy pleasure my hope, and praise of thee my action, and remembrance of thee my companion, and the power of thy sovereignty my succorer, and thy habitation my home, and my dwelling place, the seat thou hast sanctified from the limitations imposed upon them who are shut out as by a veil from thee. Thou art verily the Almighty, the All-Glorious, the Most Powerful. And this is a prayer from Baha'u'llah. You know, every time I read this and other prayers that use the word succorer, I still remember the first time I ever heard that word. I did not know what it meant. You know, I had never heard it outside of Baha'i circles, and I thought they were saying sucker. But it's succor. It's succor, which means strength, and succorer is strengthener. And for anyone for whom that's a new word, it's Succorer, succorer. And sometimes we say it so fast it might come off sounding like sucker. I always like to tell people that. And then I find out I'm speaking to someone who's read the writings and they look at me like, yeah, I know. Okay. But we have Eric here with us who's going to be helping us out today. Unfortunately, Daryl is home not feeling well, and hopefully he'll be back with us next week. We certainly hope so. But we're glad that Eric is here to step in. If you don't mind me putting a little of your business out in the street, Eric has made it clear that there was a time when he felt uncomfortable in front of audiences and speaking and even reading. And so I don't think he feels that way anymore. But if you do, we appreciate you pushing past that and helping us out today, Eric. Now, as you know, if you've been with us, we are studying the book Some Answered Questions by Abdul Baha. It's a series of talks that Abdul Baha gave sitting at, I don't know if they weren't planned speeches. He was actually sitting at table, I don't know, maybe at a meal, but he was answering people's questions. And they ended up being compiled and put in this very, very, very informative book called Some Answered Questions. And we are on chapter 10 in this book, Rational Proofs and Traditional Arguments from the Sacred Scriptures. We started it last week, and today we are going to go ahead and start. We're supposed to start on paragraph 10. The paragraphs are numbered, but Eric, if you don't mind, would you start on paragraph 9? It kind of is a good little segue. Page 59. Yeah, if you have the same edition. Now one must prove the advent of these twin manifestations.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, because one thing we need to point out is that Abdul Baha has painstakingly shown that previous dispensations / revelations have pointed out the coming of two manifestations of God in the same time period. Okay, and he talked about in the Christian revelation. He talked about the Islamic revelation, and he's saying in both of those revelations they talked about the coming of two manifestations of God at the same time. And so Abdul Baha is now explaining that as far as this being this time that we are now living in being that time. So, Eric, if you'd please begin on paragraph 9. Now, one must prove, for anyone who's wondering, because some people have different editions, and sometimes even the verbiage changes a little bit. But in this particular edition, it says, now one must prove the advent of these twin manifestations. So, Eric, please.
Now one must prove the advent of these twin manifestations by reference to the sacred scriptures and by inference from the sayings of the prophets. For our intention now is to provide arguments drawn from the sacred scriptures, since rational arguments establishing the truth of these two manifestations were presented at table a few days ago. The book of Daniel fixes the period between the rebuilding of Jerusalem and the martyrdom of Christ at 70 weeks. For it is through the martyrdom of Christ that the sacrifices ended and the altar destroyed. This prophecy thus refers to the advent of Christ. These 70 weeks begin with the restoration and rebuilding of Jerusalem, concerning which 4 edicts were issued by 3 kings. The first was by Cyrus in 536 BC, and this is recorded in the first chapter of the book of Ezra. The second edict regarding the rebuilding of Jerusalem was issued by Darius of Persia in 519 BC, and this is recorded in the 6th chapter of Ezra. The third was issued by Artaxerxes.
Don't ask me. It looks like Artaxerxes, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure either. Artaxerxes?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, you can edit that in. And
I want to point this out as this is one of the few times that Jeremiah has actually said something during our program. He corrected us. Thank you, Jeremiah.
in the 7th year of his reign, that is in 457 BC, and this is recorded in the 7th chapter of Ezra. The 4th edict was issued by him in 444 BC, and this is recorded in the second chapter of Nehemiah.
If you don't mind my stopping you there, Eric, there's something I'd like to point out. This is coming from Abdul Baha. This sounds like it's coming from someone who is very, very, very educated and certainly a biblical scholar. I don't know about you, but I don't know many people that could share these things in this context and actually give this historical breakdown of prophecy. And yet, Abdul Baha spent the vast majority of his life in prison with his father, in prison, not going to colleges, not going to other universities. And so it just shows that I don't know. All I'm saying is, to me, this is the power of God working through Baha'u'llah and by association through Abdul Baha, sharing this very high level information that again I would dare say it would take a biblical scholar to know this stuff. So please continue.
What Daniel intended is the third edict, which was issued in 457 BC. 70 weeks makes 490 days. Each day, according to the text of the Bible, is 1 year, for in the Torah it is said, the day of the Lord is 1 year. Therefore, 490 days is 490 years. The third edict of Artaxerxes was issued 457 years before the birth of Christ, and Christ was 33 years old at the time of his martyrdom and ascension. 33 added to 457 is 490, which is the time announced by Daniel for the advent of Christ. But in Daniel 9:25, this is expressed in another manner, that is, as 7 weeks and 62 weeks, which outwardly differs from the first statement. Many have been at a loss to reconcile these two statements. How can reference be made to 70 weeks in one place and 62 weeks and 7 weeks in another? These two statements do not accord.
Okay, and here Abdu'l-Baha is pointing out, wait a minute, something here isn't adding up right. He's pointing out that, yeah, there seems to be a discrepancy here. So please continue.
In reality, Daniel is referring to two different dates. One begins with the edict issued to Ezra to rebuild Jerusalem and corresponds to the 70 weeks, which came to an end with the ascension of Christ, when sacrifice and oblation were ended through his martyrdom. The second begins after the completion of the rebuilding of Jerusalem, which is 62 weeks until the ascension of Christ. The rebuilding of Jerusalem took 7 weeks, which is equivalent to 49 years. 7 weeks added to 62 weeks makes 69 weeks, and in the last week, the ascension of Christ took place. This completes the 70 weeks, and no contradiction remains. Did everybody follow along in the algebraic equations with that one?
Say that again.
Say which part?
No, what did you just say? Hey, Eric, what did you just say?
I said, did everybody follow along on the algebraic calculations?
Yeah, were you writing down the math? Yeah. But once again, I'm kind of blown away by Abdu'l-Baha's ability to just kind of lay this all out in this way. Again, it's kind of mind blowing to me. I don't have anything else to say about that, but it's just that here he is putting down all these events in a very objective, logical, factually based way that is pretty difficult to refute.
And also, it's to me, it's he's answering the questions that were deeper in the minds of the questioners, or that he knew his answer would elicit those questions future. So he's given the full explanation in one shot and allowing them to absorb it at their own speed.
I'm so glad you pointed that out, because I certainly hadn't thought about that. But yeah, I mean, this takes some very great, deep insight to anticipate. This is what these people either will ask or need to know. Hence the name of the book.
I think he was divinely inspired.
Some answered questions. Okay, please continue.
All right. Okay, so
now that the advent of
we
Christ.
got into this completes the 70 weeks and no contradiction remains. Now that the advent of Christ has been proven through the prophecies of Daniel, let us establish the advent of Baha'u'llah and of the Bab. So far, we have only provided rational arguments. Let us now turn to the traditional ones.
I'm going to stop you there. I'm going to stop you there. Because for anyone who's listening, if you haven't already read this, and even if you have, look at, once again, the logical way that Abdu'l-Baha is putting forth his argument, because this is an argument. It is an argument, and not a vicious or an argument, but it's the type of argument that, let's say, an attorney, a lawyer would put forth. Here is the evidence. Now, you might not like the evidence, but here's the evidence. And now we're going to take this evidence, present it in a fair and unbiased way, and in the end, you'll see this evidence as proof. Please continue.
In Daniel 8:13 it is said, Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, How long shall the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden under foot? And he said unto me, Unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed, until it says, At the time of the end shall be the vision. That is to say, how long shall this misfortune, this ruin, this abasement and degradation endure? Or when will the morn of revelation dawn? Then he said, 2,300 days. Then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. Briefly, the point is that he fixes a period of 2,300 years, for according to the text of the Torah, each day is 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, from the date of the edict of Artaxerxes to rebuild Jerusalem until the day of the birth of Christ, there are 456 years. In the birth of Christ until the day of the advent of the Bab, there are 1,844 years. And if 456 years are added to this number, it makes 2,300 years. That is to say, the fulfillment of the vision of Daniel took place in AD 1844, and this is the year the advent of the Bab.
Could you please read that last sentence?
That is to say, the fulfillment of the vision of Daniel took place in AD 1844, and this is the year of the advent of the Bab.
Okay.
Examine the text of the book of Daniel and observe how clearly he fixes the year of his advent. There could indeed be no clearer prophecy for a manifestation than this.
So, I don't know about you, but even he just read it all, and I don't even remember the numbers. But what I do, again, take from this is, for those who do remember the numbers or who want to sit down and painstakingly do the math, here's the math. Now, once again, you might not like the answer, but if you do the math and the math comes out accurately to a particular answer, solution, well, then once again, emotionally, we might not like the outcome. I don't like that, 1 + 2 = 3. I want it to equal 4. No, it equals 3. Sue, your hand was up. I am so glad you pointed that out. It's what Sue said, because I know you in the Zoom didn't hear that, and I'm not sure about Facebook. But what Sue pointed out is that in the year 1844, many people in Christianity and many people in Islam were awaiting the return of the prophet of their religion. They were awaiting the return. So they had done the math. And then they were all kind of disappointed when what they expected did not occur. But what Abdu'l-Baha, well, no, I'm not going to spoil. I was going to do a spoiler alert. But this is what we're talking about. People were waiting for the return. In that particular year, they were waiting for the return of Christ and for the return of, I'm trying to remember the term for in Islam. Yeah, the Mahdi. Okay.
And
Okay.
also, it was the Jewish prophecy too of the Messiah,
Yes.
because they didn't accept Christ.
Yes.
That was the date they were
Yes.
banking on.
And so, what does Abdul Baha say about this, Eric?
Well, first, I just want to repeat what he did say.
Mhm.
There could indeed be no clearer prophecy for a manifestation than this. In Matthew 24:3, Christ clearly says that what Daniel meant by this prophecy was the date of the Advent, and this is the verse. As he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? Among the words he uttered in reply were the following: When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. Thus he referred them to the 8th chapter of the book of Daniel, implying that whoever reads it should grasp when that time shall be. Consider how clearly the advent of the Bab has been specified in the Torah and the Gospel.
And if you're just joining us in this process of reading this book, uh, the Bab is one of these twin manifestations. Okay, and I probably shouldn't say anymore. I'm ruining the outcome, so I'll just stop talking.
Let us now establish the date of the advent of Baha'u'llah from the Torah. This date is calculated in lunar years from the revelation of the mission and the immigration of Muhammad. For in the religion of Muhammad, the lunar calendar is used, and all the ordinances regarding religious observances have been expressed in terms of that calendar. In Daniel 12:6 it is said, And one said to the man clothed in linen, which upon the waters of the river, How long shall it be to the end of these wonders? And I heard the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, when he held up his right hand and his left hand unto heaven, and swear by him that liveth forever, that it shall be for times and a half. And when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, all these things shall be finished. I missed that calculation, so I'll read on.
I was going to say I'd like to stop you, but when they say time, times and a half, I'll admit I don't know what that means.
Remember, he's talking about the lunar calendar at that
Okay,
point.
yes, the lunar, and you know what? That's something that's worth pointing out, and I'm glad here that Abdul Baha points it out. Yes. Say that again, George. Okay. Okay, what Jeremiah has just told us is that there is a program on clearwaterbahais.org in which a scholar, George Vaya, okay, actually breaks this down very clearly. And you say it's a series of lectures, about 7 hours. Okay, I'm not sure that's a selling point, but about 7 hours. Okay, 7 hours in which it is very clearly broken down. Again, as far as what all of this means, and I'm assuming will give us a much deeper understanding. Now I've got to go watch that 7 hour program, okay, or series of lectures. All righty, please continue.
As I have already explained the meaning of day, no further explanation is needed. But let me briefly say that each day of the Father is equivalent to 1 year, and each year consists of 12 months. Thus, 3.5 years makes 42 months, and 42 months is 1,260 days. And each day in the Bible is equivalent to 1 year, and it is in the very year 1260 from the immigration of Muhammad, according to the Muslim calendar, that the Bab, the herald of Baha'u'llah, revealed his mission.
Okay, did you hear what he said? The Bab, the herald of Baha'u'llah. The Bab, the herald of Baha'u'llah. Again, read that last sentence.
And it is in the very year 1260 from the immigration of Muhammad, according to the Muslim calendar, that the Bab, the herald of Baha'u'llah, revealed his mission.
Okay. While we're reading this, and the fact that Abdul Baha points out that, in the Muslim dispensation, they use the lunar calendar. I am saying that correctly, right? I hope so. And it makes me think about calendars. We use the Gregorian calendar. Okay, it's been around for a long time and we've been using it. Calendars are just another way of marking time. And so when a new manifestation of God comes, it's not unusual for them to use a particular kind of calendar. There is a Baha'i calendar. Now, we still refer to the Gregorian calendar as well, but there is a Baha'i calendar, and we kind of go back and forth as far as Baha'i holy days and so forth and so on. But it's just one of those things that the manifestation of God has the authority to do. And so, I just wanted to point that out. It's good that Abdu'l-Baha is making these distinctions because it helps us understand, well, why does there seem to be some conflict in these numbers? But the way he's breaking it down, no, there's no conflict. There's no conflict. We're going to go ahead and take a moment out and maybe do a song now and get back to reading. We're almost done with this chapter. And my hearing aid here is not cooperating, but I'll go ahead anyway. When I'm feeling lonely and forsaken, when the world hangs heavy on my mind, when my joy for living has been taken, I come to you, Lord, and I always find sanctuary. 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 When my problems seem without solutions, when it seems they just won't go away, when I'm overcome by life's confusion, you light my path and you prepare a way to sanctuary. 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 Sometimes I lose all faith, and all I seem to do is grieve. You remove my difficulties, give me reason to believe in you. I know with you that I'm protected in the stronghold of your defense. You comfort me when I'm rejected. You lift my spirits, give me confidence in your sanctuary. 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 Oh. Sometimes I lose all faith, and all I seem to do is grieve. remove my difficulties. Give me reason to believe in you. I know with you that I'm protected in the stronghold of your defense. You comfort me when I'm rejected. You lift my spirits, give me confidence in your sanctuary. 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 And now to continue. I think I'll read a little bit, Eric, if you don't mind. I'm going to start with, as I have already explained. Did you already read that? You
Yeah,
did.
yeah, I read that one. Do
Okay.
you want me to reread one? That
No,
one?
I'll read it
Okay.
again. But I'm like, as I have already explained the meaning of day, as I have already explained the meaning of day, no further explanation is needed. But let me briefly say that each day of the Father is equivalent to 1 year, and each year consists of 12 months. Thus, 3.5 years makes 42 months, and 42 months is 1,260 days, and each day in the Bible is equivalent to 1 year. And it is in the very year 1260 from the immigration of Muhammad, according to 1260 from the immigration of Muhammad, according to the Muslim calendar, that the Bab, the herald of Baha'u'llah, revealed his mission. Afterwards, in verses 11 and 12, it is said, and from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate be set up, there shall be 1,290 days. Blessed is he that waiteth and cometh to the 1,305 and 30 days. The commencement of this lunar reckoning is from the day of the proclamation of the prophethood of Muhammad in the land of Hijaz. And that was 3 years after the revelation of his mission. I'm going to start that again. That's not the end of that sentence, but I'm going to start that again. I think I kind of mutilated it. The commencement of this lunar reckoning is from the day of the proclamation of the prophethood of Muhammad in the land of Hijaz. I think that's a typo that I'm looking at. That's Muhammad in the land of Hijaz, but they put it runs together in one word. So I'm going to read it again, this time the right way. The commencement of this lunar reckoning is from the day of the proclamation of the prophethood of Muhammad in the land of Hijaz. And that was 3 years after the revelation of his mission. Because in the beginning, the prophethood of Muhammad was concealed, and no one knew of it save Khadijah and Ibn Enifal, Enafal, I'm sorry, until it was publicly announced 3 years later. And it was in the year 1290, from the proclamation of the mission of Muhammad, that Baha'u'llah announced his revelation. It was in the year 1290, from the proclamation of the mission of Muhammad, that Baha'u'llah announced his revelation. Now, we get all hung up in the math here, and we can kind of forget the whole purpose of the discussion. But again, this is rational proofs and traditional arguments from the sacred scriptures. But those rational proofs are to show that those rational proofs that he's giving are to show that there is, let's say, a formula, which biblical scholars know the formula, Islamic scholars know the formula, uh, Jewish scholars know the formula. But the formula leads to 2 specific years. And those years, again, are 1844 And oh golly, I'm trying to remember 1840. Well, anyway, 1844 is the year of the Bob's proclamation, revelation. And so again, this is all again while we can really get caught up in the math, as those people should. I was thinking of something. Uh, the book we read prior to this was The Seven Valleys and the Four Valleys. And Baha'u'llah points out that there are different approaches to having a relationship with God. For some people, it's the law. They want to know the law, they want to follow the law, and you can have a relationship with God in that way. For another, it's more, shall we say, I don't want to say rational because the law is rational, but I'll say this idea of being knowledgeable of the scriptures, reading the scriptures and knowing them. And another way, just having just a deep, deep, deep love for God, just a deep love for God. And the fourth way that he points out is combining all of those in some combination, knowing the law, having some idea of being a biblical scholar, or let's say a scriptural scholar, because it's not all from the Bible, but a scriptural scholar. Well, I'll put it that way in my words. And having just a very deep, deep, deep love for God. You might not be an expert, you might not even know all the laws, but you have this deep, deep love for God. And Baha'u'llah says the fourth way is to have all of those. And indeed, he points out that is, of those four different ways, that is the one that is most desirable. But for those people, for the scholars among us, for the scholars, this is to me that kind of an approach. Let's sit down and do the math, and
from your own
exactly,
scriptures.
exactly. So you can see in an objective way that there's something to this, that there is something to this. And so I like to just wanted to point that out because again, it to me speaks to the fact that again, that there are those different approaches, and to me, this approach is one of those logical, objective, very rational ways. And I'm not going to say it will give you, in and of itself, a relationship with God, but hopefully, it will be at least a component in having a deep respect and maybe even a deeper desire for having a spiritual connection with our Maker and with His appointees that bring the Word to us. With those manifestations of God that bring the Word to us. Now, you sounded like you were getting ready to say something.
Yeah, in relation to that, I'm reminded that the purpose of man is to know and love God.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So I'm one of those that came to the faith through logic. It made sense. It answered all the questions I had. I don't recall ever feeling that aha moment that people talk about, that they just know this belief is right. But the more I put my faith in what I read in the writings of Baha'u'llah and the prayers, and the more sincerity I put into the prayers, the more I find it affecting my life in a positive way without me trying.
That is so powerful, man. I'm so glad you pointed that out. I am so glad you pointed it out. So you mean you say there was not that aha moment where you were just struck like lightning and,
Right.
I found. No,
Right.
you went through, your approach was through study. And eventually you had to accept it because we're constantly told by Abdul Baha, consider fairly, consider fairly. Apparently you considered fairly. Did you find, and this was not meant to be part of today's discussion, but this is interesting. Did you find any moments of, I don't know, doubt before you reached that point where you knew, okay, yeah, this is real?
Well, as I've shared a couple times before, my biggest stumbling block was I didn't see the logic in giving up alcohol.
Wow.
So when I finally did enough readings and had the proper coaching of what I call my spiritual father in Birmingham, was that any inhibition of any of my senses decreases the level that I could reach towards my full capacity.
Mhm.
And that alcohol does that. When he explained that to me and showed me in the writings what Bahala was talking about, I joined the faith, and 2 weeks later was elected to the assembly.
Okay. Okay. I won't make a joke about that. I'm tempted, but I won't. But the main thing is, again, you came through this with a very logical approach.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that it's any better. Different people come to God in different ways. In different ways.
And I always believed in God, and I believed in Christ. That I
Mhm.
didn't go to church, but the closest I got to an aha moment was a few years ago when I had a aortic aneurysm,
Mm.
and it awakened me to uh, the need to focus on my health
Okay.
and my
Okay.
lifestyle and that kind of stuff. So it wasn't a flash of stuff. It just
Mhm.
was God stopped my life and said,
Okay.
"Hey, look
Mhm.
at it again."
And so I'm really glad you're sharing that with us, Eric. I am, because again, there are different approaches. And for anyone who, I mean, having grown up Christian as well, I'll admit I had some resistance. When I started reading the Baha'i literature, I'll say, I was looking for what I felt was, no, that's wrong. And, I was looking for the weak spots, uh, because for whatever reason, I felt that, okay, this is close, but I'm sure it's not it. And the more I read, the more I had to just accept and face the fact. I guess my approach was sort of like yours. I had to face the fact. It's to me, it I don't know. It's kind of counterintuitive to me to read prophecy, to believe in prophecy, but not accept the possibility that in our lifetime, or maybe even the recent time before we were born, or in our age, shall we say, that prophecy has come true. And this is an explanation of, but this is how it came true. And so I don't want to belabor this. We're already running out of time, but it's again, it's one of those things where Abdul Baha is putting forth rational arguments, and he's going to do that in the very next chapter, chapter 11. We will begin next Sunday, which is commentary on the 11th chapter of the Revelation of John. Ooh, commentary on the 11th chapter of the Revelation of John. So, with that being said, we're going to put our books aside. And at this time, anyone who would like to offer up a prayer or reading of your own choosing, this is that time. And I'm just looking at the small little uh, um, um, squares, shall we say, in our Zoom. I don't know. Is Andy with us today? Andy is not with us today. So, we will not have our Andy Murphy moment. Is there anyone else who would like to offer up a prayer or reading of your own choosing? Okay,
Sure.
Kristen, we have Kristen here. Well, I'll tell you what. Well, we'll have Terry on Zoom. Let's let Terry give his prayer since he's already ready, and then Kristen, you can come up to the mic. Why don't you come on up to the mic and be prepared when Terry is finished? Now there is a there's a switch on that mic. I'm not sure that the mic is turned on, but check after Terry has shared his prayer. So please, Terry.
Thank you. Praise be thou, O Lord my God. I bear witness that from eternity thou wert exalted in thy transcendent majesty and might, and wilt to eternity abide in thy surpassing power and glory. None in the kingdoms of earth and heaven can frustrate thy purpose. None throughout the realms of revelation and of creation can prevail against thee. At thy command thou doest what thou willest, and by the power of thy sovereignty thou rulest as thou pleasest. I implore thee, O thou who causeth the dawn to appear, by thy lamp which thou dost light with the fire of thy love, before all that are in heaven and on earth, and whose flame thou feedest with the fuel of thy wisdom and the kingdom of thy creation, to make me to be of those who have soared in thine atmosphere and surrendered their will to thy decree. I am all wretchedness, O my Lord, and thou art the most powerful, the Almighty. Have pity upon me by thy grace and bountiful favor, and graciously aid me to serve thee, and them that are dear to thee. Potent art thou to do as thou willest. No God observeth thee, the God of strength, of glory, and of wisdom. Some prayer meditations about.
Thank you, thank you, Terry. Thank you, Kristen. Yes.
Hello. O God, my God, this is the handmaiden is calling upon the trusting in thee, turning her face unto thee, imploring thee to shed thy heavenly bounties upon her, and to disclose unto her thy spiritual mysteries, and to cast upon her the light of thy Godhead. O my Lord, make thy eyes of my husband to see, rejoice thou his heart with the light of thy knowledge of thee. Draw thou his mind unto thy illuminous beauty. Cheer thou his spirit by unto revealing unto him the manifest splendors. O my Lord, lift thou the veil from before his sight, rain down the plenteous bounties upon him, intoxicate him with the wine of the love for thee. Make him one of thy angels whose feet walk upon the uh, the earth, even as their souls are soaring through the high heavens. Cast him, cause him to become a brilliant lamp, shining, shining our with the light of thy wisdom in the midst of thy people. Verily, thou art the precious, the the ever bestowing, the the open of the hand. And this is for my boyfriend.
Thank you, Kristen.
I've got one.
Oh, Andy. Hey, Andy. Please. Our Andy Murphy moment. We will have it.
Blessed is the spot in the house, in the place, in the city, in the heart, in the mountain, in the refuge, in the cave, and the valley, and the land, and the sea, and the island, and the meadow where mention of God hath been made, and his praise glorified.
Thank you, Andy. That was beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else who would like to share? Please, Sue.
He is the compassionate, the all bountiful. O God, my God, thou seest me, thou knowest me. Thou art my haven and my refuge. None have I sought, nor any will I seek save thee. No path have I trodden, nor any will I tread, but the path of thy love. In the darksome night of despair, my eye turneth expectant and full of hope to the morn of thy boundless favor. At the hour of dawn, my drooping soul is refreshed and strengthened by the remembrance of thy beauty and perfection. He whom the grace of thy mercy aideth, though he be but a drop, shall become the boundless ocean, and the merest atom which the outpouring of thy loving kindness assisteth shall shine even as the radiant star. Shelter under thy protection, O thou Spirit of purity, thou who art the all-bountiful provider, this enthralled and kindled servant of thine. Aid him in this world of being to remain steadfast and firm in thy love, and grant that this broken-winged bird attain a refuge and shelter in thy divine nest that abideth upon the celestial tree.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to share? I know, Eric, you always like to share a hidden word, please.
I would like to.
Yeah, I'd like to share a couple.
Oh, Kim has a prayer she wants to share. Please share. Please.
Thought there was somebody on there.
Okay. It's a short one. This is from the Bob. O Lord, thou art the remover of every anguish and the dispeller of every affliction. Thou art he who banish every sorrow and setteth free every slave, the redeemer of every soul. O Lord, grant deliverance through thy mercy and reckon me among thy servants of thine as has gained salvation.
Thank you very much, Kim. Thank you. And now, Eric, please. Eric is reading a couple of words. We want to try and make this a regular part of our program where we share a couple of hidden words from this very, very beautiful book of short readings from Baha'u'llah. It's called The Hidden Words.
I'm going to read a couple here from the Persian, part 2 of the book. O oppressors on earth, withdraw your hands from tyranny, for I have pledged myself not to forgive any man's injustice. This is my covenant which I have irrevocably decreed in the preserved tablet and sealed it with my seal of glory. O children of fancy, know verily that while the radiant dawn breaketh above the horizon of eternal holiness, the satanic secrets and deeds done in the gloom of night shall be laid bare and manifest before the peoples of the world.
Wow. Thank you, Eric. Okay, we're running out of time, but there's so much I want to say. I won't say anything. I won't. But we always like to point out that this is a joint effort from people of different communities. There are places, I'm going fast here because we're almost out of time. There are places there where you can go, various websites that you can get more information about the Baha'i Faith and get access for free to the content that we're usually covering here in our program. And those websites are www.baha'i.org, www.baha'i.us, www.bahaiteachings.org, and you can get a whole lot of video information through www.clearwaterbaha'is.org. And if you want to have an app on your phone, there are several. One of the best is Oceans 2.0. It's a free app. Obviously, you can get it in your Play Store, and it has all of these various writings, not just from the Baha'i Faith, but from the major religions of the world. And so there are lots of places you can get information and be able to, start, reading for yourself. And it won't cost you a dime. And if Daryl were here, he would always say, wherever you go for the next week, try to share the love. Lord knows we need it. And in honor of that, this is coming from Abdu'l-Baha. Love is a secret of God's holy dispensation. Love is heaven's kindly light. Love is the cause of God's revelation unto man. Love ensures true felicity. This is what I want you to remember. Strive to become the manifestations of the love of God, the lamps of divine guidance, shining amongst the kindreds of the earth with the light of love, 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 with the light of love. Come out there and show love to